You know, we know Ben Wallace, the Defence Secretary, is lobbying for another 10 billion. Whether he gets it from Jeremy Hunt, we simply don't know. But really quite shocking, what I'm seeing this morning, that the French military capability, I mean, you were a naval officer, they've got more frigates than we've got, they've got more sailors than we've got, they've got more soldiers than we've got. The French military forces, they may not be technologically quite as good as ours yet, but they're actually far bigger than ours, and they do all of this on a reduced budget. They don't spend as much as we do, and they have a bigger force. So my thought is, if we do put 10 billion into our defence budget on budget day on the 15th of March, are we going to spend it properly?
Well, as ever, Nigel, this is less about strategy than it's about politics. Politically, it seems to be expedient to send materiel to Ukraine, but not, strangely enough, to say that we're going to be providing it to our own forces. It's important also to recognise that the President of France said only a couple of weeks ago that a 7-year settlement, for defence in France would average out at around £51 billion per annum, which compares relatively well with the £48 billion that we spend. But you make the point very well. It's how it is spent that matters.
Yeah.
I mean, look, around half of that spending, if you also include R&D, is on materiel. So we must be doing something about that.
Yeah, we must. And I mean, basically, we're very close to the point where the French become the second partner in NATO to the Americans and not us. And strategically, I think that would be a mistake. Just my confidence in Whitehall, I have to say, to spend this money well, is not particularly strong. How do you assess the politics? You've said it yourself. You know, we've got a Chancellor who is under massive pressure in all directions, raising taxes, etc. National debt that soared to 2.5 trillion. These are all very real issues. You know, growth running at zero for the last quarter of last year. How do you assess the political chances of defence getting that 10 billion?
As ever, this is about the communication of what's occurring. The fact is that defence spending is not just about what people see. It's actually about diplomacy. It's about foreign policy. It's about Britain's place in the world. And this is not being adequately communicated. If we look at, for example, YouGov's polling, defence and security comes out almost at the bottom of the chart every week on the continuous poll of the things that people would like to see the government spending more money.
And yet the irony is, the first duty of government is
the protection of its citizens.
Yeah.
Absolutely correct.
Yeah.
So it is incumbent upon the services themselves, ex-service personnel, and indeed politicians to recognise that whilst there might not be an understanding in the population of the necessity of defence, surely the situation on the very borders of the European Union and indeed NATO, what do we need to demonstrate the value of defence more than that?
OK, so you think it's justifiable to send the military equipment we're sending and the future promises that we've made? You think it's the right thing to do, or do you feel we've sent too much?
Documents lodged in the House Commons Library yesterday say that we put £2.3 billion worth of material into Ukraine. I assume that also includes the training we've been doing since 2015. Now, does that come from the defence budget itself? Now, that is a whole lot more opaque.
Yeah, no, it is. No, it is. But in terms of shells, anti-tank missiles, etc., our stocks are now very low. Does that make sense?
Whilst it's true to say that in certain areas there are challenges, there are always challenges in any organisation of any type. But we have to have a serious conversation about defence in this country. It has to be a greater priority. We must fund it properly, and we must reallocate funding from other areas of spending and allocate it to our own safety.